Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Pittsburgh Sports Memories Podcast. My name is Tim Hannon, and I have a co host with me. His name is.
Steve Wirt.
What's up, Steve?
Oh, not much. I'm ready to hear all these clips that you have assembled for us.
Oh, yeah. And we've got a clip heavy show, and we've got a timely show because football season's here. Yay, football season.
Woohoo! We've just been dying, without anything to entertain us for 8 months. I don't know. When was the Super Bowl over? February? So
That's
six, seven
right.
months. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
it's been a hot minute. And this football season, the Steelers open up in sunny New Jersey against the New York Jets. So, this episode, we are going to talk about the surprising history of Steelers and Jets. So, Steve, the Jets, like them, hate them, or indifferent?
uh, I don't know. I've never hated them. They've never had anything that I could remember ever hating them about. They're like one of those teams that the Steelers always seem to beat. Now I know that they've lost a couple in recent history, but it just seems like anytime the Steelers need a win, if they play the Jets or the Colts, we're getting it.
Yeah, yeah. It's never been a huge rivalry. Um, I was always mostly indifferent to the Jets. I always thought they were a kind of a loser franchise who couldn't get out of their own way.
So they're kind of the Pitt Panthers of the
Kind of.
NFL ranks. Yeah.
you know um so I was mostly indifferent, but I have hated them ever since the infamous Monday Night Football game of October 21st, 2019. So I got to do a little
What?
story here.
Well, this is odd.
Yeah, so
Do
so
tell us more, Tim.
yeah, so that week I was locked in a really critical battle with my brother in our fantasy football league where I really needed the win. And going into the Monday night game between the Patriots and the Jets, I have a pretty big lead, and the only player my brother has left is the New England defense. And I did the math before the game. All I needed to win the week was for one of these two things to happen. Number one, the Jets score points, any points, a field goal, whatever, just score.
Safety, fair
Safety,
catch.
anything.
Yeah, yeah.
But even, Steve, even in the absence of points by the Jets, I could still win the week as long as the Jets committed fewer than 5 turnovers. So that's all I needed from this sorry, miserable excuse for a franchise. Score once or get shut out, but only commit 4 turnovers in the process. Not a big ask, right?
I get the feeling it was a big ask.
Yeah, yeah. Sure enough, the Jets get shut out, and Sam Darnold commits 5 turnovers by himself. I can honestly say this, I've never been more infuriated watching a sporting event in my entire life. And there's multiple times where it's like, I'm thinking, okay, it's 33 nothing New England. Maybe the Jets will just get a garbage touchdown here, only to watch Darnold throw another interception in the end zone. And ESPN that night, they had the New York sideline mic'd up, and Darnold is telling Jets coach Adam Gase that he's seeing ghosts out there. You remember that? And I'm screaming at my TV, well, then stop throwing the football to the freaking ghosts.
Maybe he like disassociated. He couldn't tell reality from he's like, ooh, maybe that's a real player. Maybe he thought he was throwing to who was the famous Jets receiver back in the 70s that Namath used to throw to, Don Maynard or somebody.
I think the Jets should disassociate themselves from the National Football League.
They should go to like the Canadian Football League. Where else are they gonna go?
They add nothing of value to football as far as I'm concerned.
I
So
will not have you impugn the Jets. I don't know, whatever they have. What I mean, Woody Johnson. I told you how Woody Johnson made his money, right? In one of the podcasts, right?
yeah, how I can't remember.
Well, yeah, you ever heard of a little company called Johnson and Johnson?
That's right. Yeah,
He's one
yeah.
of the Johnsons, literally. I mean, I don't mean that in a suggestive way either. Every time you put a Band-Aid on, you have now paid Aaron Rodgers whatever money they still owe him. So, Mark even who else? Like, why do the Jets always draft like Pitt Panthers? Have you ever noticed that?
Oh, we're going to talk about that. We'll talk about that. Don't worry,
Yeah.
because there is some Pittsburgh connections for sure. I will say I feel sorry for their fans. It
Is it
just
Mike Greenberg a fan?
yeah, yeah, Mike Greenberg and all their other fans too. I can't imagine being a fan of that team. In fact, here's actually a good take from the folks at Saturday Night Live.
Welcome to Fox NFL Sunday. We've got a big game coming up between the Philadelphia Eagles, who lead the NFC East, and the New York Jets, who were cursed by Warlock 1,000 years ago, and they can never experience joy.
So yeah, that's
a nice Kurt Menefee impersonation by Kel or Keenan or whatever.
Yeah, Keenan Thompson. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's talk about Steelers and Jets. Let's actually start off with some fun facts about Steelers versus Jets. We'll start with the all-time series. And Steve, I'll let you and the listeners take a guess here because you said the Steelers, mostly won. So here, the Steelers and Jets have played each other 28 times.
It's got to be
many,
like the Jets have only won like maybe 5 or 7 at best.
So you're saying the Steelers have won how many of the 28?
Like 21.
Wow. The Pittsburgh Steelers lead the series 21-7. Ding, ding, ding. You are right on the money.
Woohoo!
Wow. You win the big prize, which is my adulation.
Well, that's what I've been angling for all these years, and I finally got it. All right, I'm out. I retired from podcasting. 5 years it took me.
Some more fun facts. The Jets never won a game at Three Rivers Stadium, although they have won twice at Hines/Acrisure. The Jets and Steelers once played a preseason game in Seattle back in 1972. That was before Seattle had a team. So it was kind of like a test the market kind of thing. And 44,000 people.
Look at what you're missing here, Seattle. Yeah, look at what you're missing, Seattle fans.
Yeah, they got 44,000 people. So that helped solidify Seattle as a future NFL market. The longest field goal in the history of Heinz Field/Acrisure is kicked by Chris Boswell against the Jets in 2022. That was a 59-yarder.
Wait a minute, there aren't any 60-yarders? Yeah, that's right. I think 50-yard. Remember, there weren't any 50-yarders for the longest time.
Yeah. But between Boswell, I think Ben Sauls has a couple 50-yarders too.
That's because they put that giant jumbotron in the end.
It did help. Yeah. Jerome Bettis of the Steelers and Curtis Martin of the Jets, who are both Hall of Fame running backs, actually each threw touchdown passes against the other player's team.
Yeah, I remember that.
Martin threw a touchdown pass against the Steelers in 2001, and Bettis threw one against the Jets in 2004. And yes. Speaking of Martin, he is one of several Hall of Fame players who played for the Jets who has local ties. The others are Darrelle Revis, Jason Taylor, Ty Law, and Joe Namath.
That's unreal, huh?
Yeah.
I didn't realize Ty Law ended up with the Jets. That must have been at the end of his career.
Yeah, I think it was after the Patriots. I know that.
Yeah. Darrelle Revis and Curtis Martin are more people I think of with the Jets. Other Joe Namath, of course.
Yeah, Jason Taylor, too, wasn't. Yeah, you think of him as more of a Dolphin.
A Dolphin.
Yeah. And then lastly, this upcoming game this year in 2025 features the first instance in NFL history where the opening day starting quarterbacks will be facing the team that they were opening day quarterbacks for the year before. So Aaron Rodgers is the quarterback for the Steelers. He was the opening day starter for the Jets in 2024. Justin Fields is a starter for the Jets, and he was the opening day starter for the Steelers in 2024. All right, so let's talk about the history of Steelers-Jets, and we'll start with the first ever game between these two teams. It happens right after the AFL-NFL merger on November 8th, 1970. It's also the first ever sellout at Three Rivers Stadium.
Really?
Yep.
Wow. Yeah. I think that has to be they've had sellouts ever since it, but except for they don't count the replacement player games, right? Where they didn't sell out.
Yeah, I don't think they sold those games out.
But they don't really ever count those.
And I don't know that they've had sellouts ever since, because remember, this is 1970, so they're still not great. But the reason this game's a sellout, Steve, is because a lot of people want to watch this guy, Joe Namath, who at the time was a pretty big celebrity. And of course, as we mentioned, had local ties. And remember, like, this is peak, I don't know, like baby boomer, anyone who was countercultural like Broadway Joe was a big deal.
Well, he had long hair, and apparently Abe Simpson's wife just couldn't control herself.
Right. Yeah, he challenges authority figures, and people just swoon at the very, sight of him.
Including Homer Simpson's mother.
Right. Yeah, that's right. But in all seriousness, the reason that this was the first sellout primarily was because people wanted to see Namath. And someone in that game even hangs up a huge "We Love You, Joe" banner from the upper deck of Three River Stadium.
Did you ever see the Joe Namath commercial where he's wearing nylons?
Pantyhose, yeah.
Yeah,
yeah.
He was very ahead of his time.
He was.
Yeah.
He was. Unfortunately, that day, Steve, Namath has a wrist injury, so he's not playing in this game.
Oh, was he wearing his big fur coat on the sidelines? It was November.
He may have been. So Joe Namath isn't playing. Neither is rookie Terry Bradshaw.
Oh goodness, who are the quarterbacks? This is good. What is it? The Terry Hanratty show? Or
yeah. This sellout crowd at Three River Stadium gets to see Terry Hanratty besting Jets quarterback Al Woodall in a 21-17 Steelers win.
And not to besmirch the Woodall family, but I have no idea who Al Woodall is.
Yeah, me either. I don't think Jets fans probably would either.
Yes.
So that's the first game. 3 years later, the Steelers are scheduled to play the Jets at Shea Stadium, but the game is moved to Three Rivers because the Mets are playing in the World Series. So now, will Pittsburgh fans get to see Joe Namath this time? Nope, he's hurt again. And so is Al Woodall. So this time it's the legendary Bill Demery playing quarterback for the Jets.
Wow. This is a deep dive into Jets quarterback history.
It is. It is. Terry Bradshaw does start this one for the Steelers, but he gets benched for Hanratty in the second half.
Benched for Terry Hanratty. Ouch.
Yeah, this is 1973.
Ouch.
So we're still not quite in prime Terry.
So this is post Immaculate Reception even. Jeez.
It is. Yeah. The Steelers win again 26-14. Joe Namath never does play a game in Pittsburgh, although the Steelers do play him in New York in 1975 in a game in which they intercept him 4 times. And after that game in New York, Steelers defensive lineman Dwight White says, in reference to Namath's enormous salary, quote, "I've never been on the field with anything so expensive in my entire life."
A lot of people consider Joe Namath somewhat overrated. Like, I've always heard that about him being in the Hall of Fame. Like, he's one of the weakest Hall of Famers out there.
Yeah. It's funny that everybody thinks that now, because when we were younger and it was like that 80s, 90s era where, again, you had a lot of the baby boomer era influence. Joe Namath was considered one of the greatest quarterbacks ever. In fact, when the NFL did their 75th anniversary team,
I think they only picked 4 quarterbacks, and he was one of them, which is kind of a joke if you look back on it. It's all because, Steve, he won Super Bowl III. It was that one game, and it was a big deal. I don't want to take that away from him, because that was a huge thing. It's just not that he won it. It's the way he played. Like we've mentioned a few, like I have a few things he did that were like, you would never see Johnny Unitas guaranteeing a win.
Right.
That would be very anti-baby, like anti-greatest generation, I should say, not baby boomer. Like, guaranteeing a win is very baby boomer. Like, I guarantee we're going to win. And then going out and doing it. And then the pantyhose commercial, the big fur coat, the long hair. That's all things that, like, the generation before would never do. They're very stoic, whereas like
Yes.
baby boomers were more like in touch with their feelings, I guess.
And that generation loved those types of athletes. Muhammad Ali was one of those guys.
Like he would talk trash while he's like beating the crap out of somebody.
Right. So that's who they loved. They loved the outspoken. You always said, Steve, what was that quote you always say about baby boomers and their parents?
Anything to piss off their parents, they loved.
Right.
Just like just like the Abe Simpson, and I can't remember his wife's name on the show, but that's kind of the same dynamic.
That was the joke. Yeah, exactly. And so I think now that's history has evened out Joe Namath's legacy a lot better now.
Hey, I mean, how many people have wanted to kiss Susie Colbert, though? I mean, it did inspire a blog called Kissing Susie Colbert, which I don't know if it's still around anymore.
No, it's not, but I used to love that blog.
Yeah.
It's funny too, like today, I don't want to get off on too much of a tangent, but today, athletes that are outspoken, they're not really, people don't like that as much.
I think it's kind of run like they always say, like every other our generation probably and I guess we're both Gen X-ish, kind of.
We're both Gen Xers, yes.
Yeah, we're later Gen Xers, but we probably relate more with our grandparents than our parents, and it is weird. And then I think I found that with my kids, they related more with my grand than me,
Mm-hmm.
So it's just a weird thing in life, and not sure why it works that way, but it seems to.
It does. You're right.
Yeah.
All right. So the Steelers-Jets series continues to remain, I would say mostly one-sided throughout the 70s and even into the 80s. In fact, the Jets don't beat the Steelers at all until 1988, which is their 10th try. So the first 9 games, the Steelers win all of them. The Jets do give the Steelers some spirited games during that stretch. After one such game in 1978, where the Jets, who are expected to get blown out, actually, make it a game for most of the contest, reporters ask Steelers linebacker Jack Lambert, hey, why did you guys have such a tough time putting this team away? They were huge underdogs. You should have blown them out. To which Lambert replies, quote, "We won 28-17. We're 5-0. What the hell do you want?"
I want a 50-0 lambasting. This isn't college, they aren't playing like, CCAC down, they're playing a for real pro team. So
yeah, well, Jack Lambert agrees.
These guys get paid too. Yeah, I mean the Jets may be incompetent, but they're not that incompetent.
Yeah, you're right. It's the NFL, and that's something that everybody has to remember. Even like when Mike Tomlin goes and loses to the 2-10 team, which happens too often, there's the NFL teams are NFL teams, and
it's not like college. I think sometimes people take like that high school or college mentality. Yeah, sometimes in college and high school, there's just gross mismatched talent disparities.
Right.
And that doesn't happen that much in the NFL because, even the worst NFL franchise is going to pick good enough players to be competitive once in a while.
Yep, that's correct. A really significant game occurs in 1983. The Steelers and Jets are playing in what will be the final ever NFL game to be played in New York City, because the Jets and Giants have both played their own games in New Jersey ever since.
Yeah. We've talked about this game. Is this the Terry Bradshaw's last game?
It is. Yeah. That's the other reason it's significant. And the bigger reason it's significant, because like you said, it's Terry Bradshaw's
last touchdown pass to Calvin Sweeney.
Yes. And we did talk about this one, like you said, in an episode where we chronicled like the final ever games of a bunch of Pittsburgh sports legends. We'll link that on our website. And just for some background, Bradshaw had elbow surgery earlier that year, which ends up sidelining him for the first 14 games of the season. But here we are in week 15 against the Jets. Bradshaw comes back, and in the second quarter, he leads the Steelers down the field, which sets up this play.
Steelers with a single setback in Harris. Bradshaw Dropping back, here comes the rush. Fires it down right near the goal line. It is pulled in by Calvin Sweeney for the touchdown.
So far, it's like old times. The Bradshaw magic back, and the Steelers are leading 14-0.
That was it. I don't think he played the rest of the game, right?
That was his last ever play. Yeah. He re-injures his elbow on that play. You can't even tell on the replay. He kind of is shaking his arm a little bit walking off the field, but he's not, crumpled in a heap like he got, badly injured.
Yeah.
And I even watched Ahmad Rashad or whoever the NBC guy was, like interviewed him after the game. And he said, he had some soreness and, we'll evaluate. We'll see what it looks like for next week. So they weren't even talking about, that this was going to, he was done, but he was done. He never sets foot on an NFL field again. And it's a really sad end to his amazing career. And then it gets ugly after that because Bradshaw accuses Chuck Noll of rushing him back too early. And there's a lot of animosity between Bradshaw and the Steelers really for decades to come. Right, Steve?
Yeah, until they brought him back at Hines Field for a Terry Bradshaw day, and he did come back to his credit. But even now, it still seems to be there's this weird animosity. He doesn't like Pittsburgh very much. So,
yeah,
but that's Terry for you. Yeah, what are you gonna do?
Yep. So that was controversial between Bradshaw and the Steelers. But let's get into some controversies between the Steelers and the Jets. And we'll start with a game in 1989. The Steelers are playing at the Meadowlands against the Jets, and this happens.
There's Werner in motion as Ryan pumps once and has Toon wide open. Toon hit hard, but has it at the 45-yard line. Thomas Everett delivered a blow, but Toon held on to the football, but he is still down on the turf.
That was things that will get you fined for 100, Alex.
Yeah. This is Steelers safety Thomas Everett just destroys Jets all-pro wide receiver Al Toon. And Toon's pretty seriously concussed, but kind of like Steve referenced, that's not the controversy because you have to remember back then.
That was legal.
Yeah, it was legal. And in fact, Steve, it was celebrated. Remember every NFL commercial or NFL films hardest hits of the year, that kind of stuff.
He got crushed there. And but that's what you're supposed to do to try and separate the man from the ball. And you can't do that anymore. You almost have to play more like basketball where you're just going for the ball.
Yeah. And so to give you an idea of what a different time 1989 NFL was, after that game, a lot of Steelers players credit Everett for knocking out the Jets' best player. And Delton Hall, the Steelers cornerback, says, quote, he knocked Toon all the way back to first grade. He was screaming and crying for his mama.
Wow.
So like you said, that would not go over today, but back then that was just the norm. So again, that was not the controversy. The controversy actually comes after the hit because Steelers linebacker Greg Lloyd runs over as Toon's lying unconscious on the turf, and he drops to the ground and he starts counting him out WWE style.
That's right. Yeah. Oh, I forgot about that.
And that angers a lot of people in New York.
Oh, boo-hoo. I mean, that wasn't very nice, but
it was a little tasteless. I mean, the hit is a hit. Again, it was legal. Now it's football. No one was upset at Thomas Everett from a Jets perspective, but him coming over and counting out the guy, and this is a concussion. I mean, he could be, and you didn't know, right? He was down. He was unconscious, and you don't know how seriously he's hurt. Imagine if somebody would have, came over and counted out, Ryan Shazier or somebody that got seriously hurt. So, but for his part, Lloyd says, quote, I was elated. I saw his eyes going and he was out. So Greg Lloyd's loving it.
A different time, Tim.
A very different time. But again, people were still upset about it. But hang on, Steve. Greg Lloyd's not done because later in the first quarter, he concusses Jets quarterback Pat Ryan on this play.
Oh my God.
Ryan gets outside and he's going to take a pretty good lick right here. It's rather late from Lloyd. That's kind of a very late hit. Yeah, and I don't know whether that was called or not.
Yeah, that's illegal in pretty much every era. even the 70s, I don't think you could have done that.
Yeah.
He literally, like, the guy, like, maybe it was slow motion, but I don't think it was. But Lloyd literally took like 5 steps. He ran 5 yards and then hit him. It wasn't like now where it's like the guy's in the air, he can't stop in midair. Like, it's so funny how like things go from one extreme to the other. Like, obviously that's a cheap shot.
Yeah.
And you don't want that. But now they've gone the other way where guys are just literally sacking the quarterback and they're like, oh, you gotta, cradle him to the ground. You can't drive him into the ground. Like, it's a tackle. Get over it. Or you can't tackle somebody from behind and drag them down now. Or it's just dumb.
If there's one thing I've learned about humanity in general, and definitely this applies to football, Steve, we do not do nuance well.
Well, it's more fun and people get riled up if you just overreact to everything.
Yeah. Yep.
And that was like, I think even in the 70s that would have drawn a flag because like, I know it's kind of slow motion, but at the same time, like, Greg Lloyd isn't even in the picture when he starts running.
Right. It's the Jets are upset. They say it's a cheap shot. I think Steve and I would agree looking at that replay. But,
did he get, I bet he got fined for that. I can't imagine he didn't get fined for that.
Well, but regardless, without their starting quarterback and best receiver, the Jets lose the game 13-0. So,
oh wow, I can't see why.
Yeah. So that was a controversy in 1989. Let's fast forward to the 2000 season, where the 1-3 Steelers are taking on the undefeated Jets in New Jersey.
I like how you can keep making a point to say they're in New Jersey.
That's where they play. So yeah, 1-3 Steelers, undefeated Jets. That seems like a mismatch, and it is for the Jets. The Steelers roll to a dominant 22-3 victory behind a huge game by Jerome Bettis. But the controversy in that game is what happens between Jets safety Victor Green and Steelers receiver Hines Ward. So in the third quarter of that game, Green breaks up a pass to Ward and then gets up and starts talking trash to him, saying like, hey, you can't come over the middle on me. I'll knock your head off, blah, blah, blah. Well, Hines Ward wasn't exactly the type to back down from a fight. So he makes it his mission to just go straight after Green on every running play after that. And remember, like we said, Jerome Bettis had a huge game.
Yeah.
They have a few kind of like after the whistle scrums. At one point, Green reportedly like tries to plead with Ward. He's like, hey, let's put all this aside and be pros. But Ward keeps going after him anyway. Green then pleads with Plexico Burress to tell Ward to stop it. To which Plex says, quote, I'm not telling him nothing. Offensive coordinator Kevin Gilbride says, quote, by the end of the game, Green was running away from Hines on every play. I never saw anything like it.
Wow.
And Bill Cowher says Victor Green became so exasperated with Hines Ward that he forgot about trying to tackle Jerome Bettis. So that the game ends, but that's not the end of it. Green complains to his wife, Esther, and Esther Green charges after Hines Ward after the game, yelling at him.
Oh my gosh.
Like saying, hey, you were trying to ruin my husband's career. To which Ward calmly replies, quote, ma'am, we were just playing football.
Nice. Wow. I didn't realize I've heard that story before. I didn't realize his wife got involved in that.
Yeah. So his wife got involved. I mean, it's Victor Green really regretted, trying to pop and talk trash on Hines Ward. He think he learned his lesson maybe there.
Just a little bit.
Just a little bit. All right, let's talk about a controversial game that happens in 2003. That year, neither team is very good. They're both 5-8 when they meet in the aforementioned state of New Jersey late in the season.
They should just change their name to the New Jersey Jets.
They could.
They could have like a smokestack for a logo and play the Sopranos song whenever they come out of the.
There you go. So yeah, they're playing in New Jersey, and because it's the Northeast and because it's winter, there happens to be a snowstorm for the first part of that game, so the field's covered in snow, and the Jets win by the thrilling score of 6-0.
I remember this game. It was horrible.
It was horrible.
Tommy Maddox was god awful, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, well, the Tommy Maddox, a lot of people question the Steelers' game plan of having him attempt 38 passes in the snow.
sounds like a good plan. Yeah, I just remember like you couldn't do anything because it was just like really bad conditions.
It was, and the Jets conversely, they just fed the ball to Curtis Martin. He has a career high 228 yards, total yards from scrimmage. So he was a real star in that game. And after the game, Steelers owner Dan Rooney is furious, not because his team lost 6-0, but because of how the Jets handled the weather conditions. And if you watch a replay of that game, you'll notice something interesting. It's basically stopped snowing at the end of the first half. Yet there are literally like inches of snow piled up for the entire game, and it's because they didn't have the proper protocols in place to clear it. Rooney says, quote, they didn't have anybody there to do the job. They only had one plow. It was really bad. One plow. That's Dan Rooney. He says there's no reason why they shouldn't have been able to clear the field at halftime whenever the teams were in the locker room. He also notes that in Pittsburgh, they have all this equipment. They'll hire extra people. He cites the playoff game against Cleveland the previous year where it snowed for the entire game, yet there was very little actual snow on the field because they kept clearing it. They had enough plows and enough people. The NFL does launch an investigation after Rooney's comments. I don't know where that went. Probably, in the file cabinet / trash can where a lot of other NFL investigations have gone.
It's there with the Spygate tapes.
Yeah. You're right. Exactly. The chief executive of the New Jersey Sports and Expedition Authority, a guy named George Zoffinger.
I hope it was Vito. I was really hoping his name would be like, hey, what are you talking about? Forget about it. Yeah, the check didn't clear this month. Do you want me to make Mr. Rooney disappear?
Well, George Vito Zoffinger gives like the laziest response ever when questioned about this. He says, quote, he lost the game. He shouldn't go crying about the snow, which, like, come on. I mean, he wasn't crying about the snow. He wasn't saying that the snow lost the game. He was upset because you didn't clear it. That's one of my huge pet peeves is when people do that, like they deflect instead of respond to like, okay, why don't you defend, the actual accusation that
they were trying to help the Jets win, okay? And if that meant leaving 6 inches of snow on the field, then so be it.
Maybe.
And if you have any more questions about it, we got, Vito out back to, hang you in a meat cooler for a while.
But I mean, explain why you only had one plow. Explain why you weren't prepared.
I think there's a line from Goodfellas that describes this very well. It's after Tommy is hit when he thinks he's going to be a made man, and they tell, I can't remember Robert De Niro and Ray Liotta's character. And Ray Liotta's character said it was a real greaseball thing. It was among the Italians. So
maybe that was it.
And that was quote Henry Hill, not me. So
yeah. Maybe that's the explanation.
I totally think the mob just had money bet on the game, and they're like, yeah, we're letting the Jets win 6-0.
I don't know that the snow necessarily, you know what I mean? It wasn't like the Steelers where I know that, like we said, Tommy Maddox inexplicably passed the ball a lot in that game, but it wasn't like the Steelers. It wasn't like the 75 AFC Championship kind of thing where the Raiders said, "Oh, our game is outside receivers, and the Steelers game is Franco and Rocky up the middle." Like it wasn't that much of a mismatch. I think they just literally were incompetent, and for him to say like, "Oh, he's crying because he lost," it's like, no, answer for why you weren't prepared.
You sound very Al Davis like right now.
Well, but that's such a lazy. I just hate that kind of answer. It's like it's lazy. You're deflecting. Answer the question of what actually happened. But Whatever. That's the New Jersey Sports and Expedition Authority.
Like George said, forget about it. Forget about it.
That would have been a better answer. All right. Another controversy erupts in a 2014 game between the Steelers and Jets. The Steelers come into this game red hot. Ben Roethlisberger had thrown 12 touchdown passes in the previous 2 weeks. So remember, Steve, we did the top 10 Ben Roethlisberger games, and the number one game that you picked was the back-to-back 6 touchdown weeks against the Colts and the Ravens. So what happened?
That was unbelievable.
Yeah. So what happened in the third week?
Well, he threw 7 touchdowns that time.
Well, he should have, because the Jets coming into this game are 1-8.
You just can't keep up that pace. And this is the head case Steelers, the days of our Steelers. There's a urinating tree on the internet. So, they definitely mailed this one in and lost.
The Steelers lose 20-13. Typical, again, Mike Tomlin squad's losing to garbage teams. But the controversy happens at the end of this game. So Jets quarterback and future Steelers quarterback Michael Vick is taking a knee to seal the victory when Steelers safety Mike Mitchell attempts to leap over the line of scrimmage to jar the ball loose.
Okay, that's ridiculous.
Yeah. And that really angers Nick Mangold, who's the Jets All-Pro center, and he body slams Mitchell to the ground, and a big skirmish ensues. And after they break it up and the final whistle sounds, CBS cameras catch Jets coach Rex Ryan yelling "bleep you" at someone on the Steelers sidelines. Whether that's Mike Mitchell or Tomlin, that's tough to tell.
I'm gonna have to agree with Rex Ryan on this one. That's it's just stupid.
Yeah, I mean, Nick Mangold says that play was, quote, dirty and uncalled for. Ryan says it was Bush League. Mike Tomlin says it was, quote, not professional, and we don't want to play football like that. So even Tomlin kind of says, that's we don't want to do that. Mitchell, for his part, says he could care less what the Jets think. Because Mike Mitchell.
Well, as well he should. He
as we all
should. The Jets, with the New Jersey Jets.
Yeah. I mean that's a little weak. I mean the victory formation play it's almost like an intentional walk in baseball.
Yeah, it's just people. Well, at least baseball stopped. Remember, they used to make them throw like 4 times.
Right.
Yeah.
If you would have had, if people would have done this on a regular basis, football probably would have done the same thing. You just you take the automatic knee rather than actually running a play, because you could get guys hurt. You could, I mean, it's just. And
I think nowadays most guys they just if you notice the both teams just kind of stand up, they don't really hit each other.
Yeah.
I mean,
yes. So.
Speaking of that, remember that guy that when Greg Schiano, didn't he coach Tampa? Remember they were trying to do that on the kneel down plays.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And he brought that from Rutgers, I think.
Rutgers and they got in trouble for that too, because they were doing that too. Yeah.
I totally forgot about that. You're right. Good memory. I totally forgot about that. And I think that was before this. So Mitchell probably should have known better.
Yeah.
All right. So that was some controversies. Let's talk about, we'll call this next section player movement. So we had each team swap quarterbacks this past offseason, like we said, with Justin Fields going to the Jets and Aaron Rodgers coming to Pittsburgh. But these two ball clubs actually have a long history of significant players changing sides. And we'll start with probably the most famous case of that here.
No news is perhaps good news for the Steelers in the Neil O'Donnell sweepstakes. The Jets have made a better financial offer, but the chance of getting back to the Super Bowl is obviously weighing heavily on O'Donnell's mind. As of 11 o'clock tonight, both offers are on his table, but our sources tell us Neil simply can't make up his mind.
I think Neil had his mind made up.
Yeah, Neil does make up his mind eventually, and picks the Jets and the money. And it's a great signing by the Jets, because the following season with Neil under center, the Jets win. Hang on, let me just check my notes here.
1 game. One game. Nice.
1 game.
Was that with Rich Kotite still?
Yeah, that was Rich Kotite.
He was a very not good coach.
Yeah, but one game after you signed this huge free agent quarterback, my God.
And then I think even the year after with Parcells, they only won I think they did almost win like 6 or 7 games. But remember, didn't he start like Henry Burris or somebody weird at quarterback? And they did a lot of weird stuff.
The next year they almost made the playoffs because that was the game where the last game of the season they played in Detroit, and
that was Neil going along. I can't hear.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think if the Jets won, they were in the playoffs, and Detroit needed to win for them to make the playoffs. So they did get better after Parcells, and Neil wasn't like a total. Well, I would say he's a bust given the fact that they signed him to be like a Super Bowl quarterback, but he wasn't as bad as that first year, and then he was a decent backup for Tennessee later. I think if he stays with the Steelers, though, he probably has way more success.
Bob Pompiani is really young in this clip for podcast people that can't see.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this was 1996, I guess.
Yeah.
So it's almost 30 years now. About a decade later, it's another big-time Steeler who leaves for New York, Hall of Fame guard Alan Faneca.
Oh, that was, I never thought much of this. I never thought that was that much of a loss. I like Alan Faneca, and he was a great player, but it was like, this is the end of his career, and he really didn't do much there.
Yeah, to me, it was one of those rare situations where I always thought neither side was wrong. Faneca thought, he had done a lot for the Steelers. He helped them win a Super Bowl. He deserved to be well compensated. The Steelers thought Faneca was 32 years old and just wasn't worth another huge 4 or 5 year contract. And so again, I don't fault either side in that one. And Faneca, to your point, he only does last 2 years in New York. He does make the Pro Bowl both seasons, but I mean, he only lasts 2 years.
I think he made decent money too.
I'm sure he did. Yeah. And that's again why he left. He does end up finishing his career where most Steelers seem to finish their careers, with the Arizona Cardinals.
Well, it is a retirement country, so
yeah. So fast forward another decade, and we have a third big Steelers to Jets defection, and it's this guy.
Yeah.
Le'Veon Bell.
I'm going out today. I ain't got a doubt today. Make the money sprout today, and I'm out like I'm running routes today. I ain't got no comp today. I'ma make them stop today.
Wow, and make the money compensate.
Le'Veon Bell is going to make the money compensate for him holding out the entire 2018 season and betting that he would get a huge payday somewhere else. Enter the Jets.
Did they pay? I don't remember how much I didn't think they paid him that much.
They paid him a decent amount, but definitely not. I think it was less than what the Steelers, at least in guaranteed money.
I think it was, yeah.
What the Steelers what he had turned down with the Steelers. And he only lasts about a season and a half in New York.
And he doesn't I don't think his stats are even all that great.
No.
Yeah.
Nope. Another dynamite signing by the Jets. To his credit, Le'Veon Bell later regrets leaving Pittsburgh. He says he was acting, quote, petty. So, I mean, full credit to him for admitting to making a mistake.
Yeah. What a waste of talent. He like that. We were talking about 2016 championship game and other podcasts against the Patriots. He like, oh, my groin. Maybe he was hurt, maybe he wasn't 100%, but go out there and maybe even at 50%, you're better than what we had. It's just so frustrating with him.
There's some players, and especially in the NFL, I think in every sport, but there's some players who are immensely talented, but just aren't going to win you championships, and he was one of those guys.
Yeah. And that was the problem with the Killer Bee era.
Yeah,
they just didn't have. I can't ever put my finger on it. There's like an it factor. I don't know if it's just. I don't know. Like the 90s Steelers didn't have whatever that it. I think they had some of it, but maybe it's just because they were just never had that quarterback or.
Yeah. Well, speaking of it factor guys, we just talked about all guys that left Pittsburgh to go to New York. Do we have any guys that left New York to come to Pittsburgh?
Hey, you're not gonna cover Kimo von Oelhoffen, who went to the Jets in 2006?
No.
Oh, darn. Okay, wow, that happened.
I forgot about that actually.
Yeah.
But good on Chemo. He was a good player. I wouldn't say he was as significant as
That
those
was
other
it.
guys we
Yeah,
mentioned.
it was at the end of his career.
Yeah. And there were a few guys that the other way around that left New York to come to Pittsburgh, but I would say none were more impactful than this guy.
On third down, Palmer standing in the pocket and picked off. It's James Ferrier for the touchdown.
Probably the best free agent signing in Steeler history. Outside of Jerome Bettis. I mean,
Jerome Bettis was a trade.
yeah. So yeah, this is the best.
Yeah. I think that's hard to argue. In the history on James Ferrier, he was a really good inside linebacker at Virginia. And so the Jets actually draft him 8th overall in the 1997 draft. He was a top 10 draft pick.
He was considered a bust in New York.
Yeah. And he was this great inside linebacker at Virginia. He doesn't do too well in New York because the Jets promptly move him to outside linebacker. And Ferrier isn't that good at outside linebacker, so the Jets let him walk when his contract expires, and the Steelers pick him up. And he goes on to win 2 Super Bowls with Pittsburgh. He's in the Steelers Hall of Honor. He's widely considered, as Steve said, the best free agent signing in Steelers history. So thanks, Jets.
He's an it guy. That's like another
Yes.
one of those it. I
Yes.
don't know what it is about him, but like you showed that interception of Palmer. Remember the sack on Peyton Manning at the end of
Yes.
that game?
Playoff
That was
game, yeah.
him. That was him. Like
Yeah.
I don't know what like him and Chemo was kind of another little bit of, not as much. Aaron Smith, another it guy.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is. It's not like Troy Polamalu or Ben or Bettis or Faneca,
Right.
like the superstars, but these guys are it guys. They're the glue that holds your team together.
Yeah, Ike Taylor was one of those guys.
Yeah.
Kiesel, Casey Hampton, Lawrence Timmons. There was a lot of guys like that helped win.
I would say even
championships.
LaVon Kirkland, even though they didn't win, like
Yeah.
Cornell Lake,
Yep.
another guy, Willie Williams. Yeah.
Yeah, totally agree. And you're right. Going back to your original point that Killer B era, you just didn't have enough of those guys. All right, so let's wrap up this episode with the 2 biggest games in Steelers Jets history. Both of them are postseason games. The first is the 2004 AFC Divisional Playoffs. We've talked about this game before. The Steelers are 15-1 that year. They have a rookie quarterback named Ben Roethlisberger. They have secured home field advantage throughout the entire playoffs. The Jets are a wild card team. They had shocked the Chargers in overtime in San Diego the week before. And they're also led by quarterback Chad Pennington, who many people thought was going to be a Steeler. I don't know if you remember that, Steve. In the 2000 draft, the Steelers actually have a chance to select Pennington out of Marshall, but they passed on him for the aforementioned Plexico Burress. Most people thought this game would be pretty easy Steeler victory. In fact, they were a 9-point favorite. But the Steelers struggle. Roethlisberger throws a costly pick 6 in the second half. And with 2 minutes left, the Jets have a chance to kick the go-ahead field goal, but kicker Doug Bryan hits the crossbar. So now the Steelers only need 20 or 30 yards to kick their own game-winning field goal, but Ben throws another interception. And now Doug Bryan has a second chance to win the game, and this time it's at the buzzer.
Crowd will tell you whether the Jets win. He missed it. Well, let's play some overtime.
43-yard field goal. I loved when Hines Field was impossible to kick a field goal. It was such a home field that, I don't understand.
I understand it.
How much money is that really making them? Like, what? Maybe $1 million? Maybe? What's the operating budget of the Steelers? It's got to be over $1 billion. You're talking like not even 1%. Don't get me started.
Steve, this is the NFL. Like we're gonna by the time this episode airs, that we're gonna be like in an 18-game schedule. They're gonna go to an 18-game schedule, which is kind of totally dilute everything. It's gonna get more guys hurt. For what? Like when is enough money enough money? And the answer is,
but it does, and
never.
the product suffers. That's the problem. Is the product suffers. But 18 games, your people are barely watching the games at the end of the year as it is. This is going to be like who watches any Pirates baseball in September this year? Who is going to watch any of that crap? Probably me. But beyond that, you know what I mean? It's just meaningless baseball.
And guys will get hurt, but people will tune in, and people will bet, and people will play fantasy, and the machine will keep rolling. Like
but even fantasy football, Tim, you play your championship the week before because it's so bad. Like, don't most leagues finish up week like whatever 2 weeks or a week?
They do.
Because nobody plays the last week.
It doesn't. Yeah. They'll still do it because it's more money. Like one of the things that I read this offseason is, they've talked about the NFL. I think is the only league. Well, baseball maybe. But the NFL doesn't have a draft lottery, right? If you finish with the worst record, you get the number 1 pick. And there was talk of them implementing a draft lottery not because of like fairness or they're worried about teams tanking, just because they could make it a revenue streaming event. So imagine if in February,
so now you have like who's going to be the worst teams next year? Tennessee, New York. Both New York teams probably. And so they all go into a room and it's like, Mark Davis, Woody Johnson, the ghost of Woody Johnson and one of the Maras. And
the Browns.
Said, and Haslam are all in a room like trying to draw lottery balls or something.
Yeah.
With Goodell.
So imagine, Steve, it's like February 26th. The Super Bowl's been over for weeks. There's no NFL. There's free agency hasn't started yet. Oh, but you can put this event on TV and have it be sponsored, and even maybe move it to different cities, like the draft.
And then people can bet on it.
People can bet on it. So
God, they are going to do this.
You have to think. You have to think. The NFL. It doesn't matter how much money they make. You have to always be making more. So the answer, like I said, the answer to the when is enough money, the answer is never. And so for Heinz Field, the answer, like you said, the open end, that was a real nice advantage. Doesn't matter. When you put more seats in, you can make more money. That's all that matters. Anyway, back to the 2004 playoffs. That game does go into overtime after Doug Bryan misses 2 field goals. Jeff Reed does not miss in overtime. He kicks a 33-yarder. The Steelers went in. And
I think it was in the open end too, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was the funny thing. Doug Bryan missed both those field goals in the closed end. Jeff Reed made the field goal in the open end. But I don't know that. I think just having the wind, right? It wasn't so much.
Yeah. Well, the grass was terrible.
The turf was bad. Yeah. I mean, Jeff Reed famously later gets cut because, amongst other things, he bashes the field. So that was 2004. These two teams meet again in the postseason. And again, it's at Heinz Field. It's 6 years later. This time,
I remember this game,
AFC Championship. Once again, no one expected the Jets to be here, but led by Mark Butt Fumble Sanchez.
Hey, that's a shame. That's a shame that guy is known for that. He wasn't that bad of a quarterback. He wasn't. He beat Penn State handily in the Rose Bowl, so I will always respect him for that.
Yeah, and they had actually been in the AFC Championship game the year before.
This was the Rex Ryan, Darrelle Revis, really good defense years.
Yep, it was. And they had beaten the Patriots in the divisional round. I mean, that's more than the Steelers could ever say. That Steelers never could knock the Patriots out of the playoffs. So they come to Pittsburgh with the chance of playing in the Super Bowl for the first time in like 100 years. As Steve said, the Jets are coached by Rex Ryan. Rex Ryan had actually lost the AFC Championship game at Heinz Field 2 years earlier as the defensive coordinator of the Ravens. So he's looking to avenge that defeat. The Steelers are having a weird season in 2010. I won't go into that in detail because I really think it needs its own episode. Like that season, people forget how nuts that was. That was the year Ben got suspended. A bunch of other weird things happened that year. But needless to say, they have the opportunity to go to their 3rd Super Bowl in 6 seasons. And in the first half, it's all Steelers. They put together some long kind of like defense killing drives. They take a 17-0 lead. And then right before halftime, this happens.
Well, what the Jets have really got to do here, Jim, is they got to find a way to get out of this first half without giving up more. Did not give more. 3rd and 17. Hit when he throws it. Ball is out. That is William Gay picking it up. Gay is in for a touchdown. Sanchez is still down. He was hit by Ike Taylor.
Should have listened to Phil Simms.
Phil Simms was still doing the games back then. Wow.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. He was until Tony Romo. That wasn't until I want to say maybe 6-7 years ago. It was pretty recent.
I don't think Phil Simms is even on the pregame or postgame anymore. Yeah.
Yeah, and that was nuts because the Jets had the ball at like their own 25 there. They there was like a minute left. I get what they were trying to do. They were trying to like, okay, if we can just get a field goal before halftime, it won't be as bad. 17-3 is a little better than 17-0. But then they Sanchez gets hit, he fumbles. William Gay, who's always Johnny on the spot, runs it into the end zone. And at that point, it really looks like, man, this is just going to be a blowout, which is so rare for like the Steelers in a big game to just, crush somebody. But of course, never that easy. In the second half, the Jets start to mount a comeback. One guy we didn't mention in the section we talked about earlier, where we talked about guy swapping teams, was Santonio Holmes.
Yeah, that's right. He's on the Jets, isn't he?
Yeah. Yeah. He and Santonio Holmes, of course, the Super Bowl hero for the Steelers. But yeah, in this game, he's playing for the Jets. He has a huge 45-yard touchdown in the second half to get the Jets back into it. And the Steelers, meanwhile, keep making mistakes. Ben throws a bad pick. The center snaps the ball too high for a safety. And sure enough, the Jets are only down by 5 in the game's final minutes. So here's the situation. The Steelers have the ball at the 2-minute warning. It's 3rd and 6, and the Jets are out of timeouts. So again, the Steelers have a 5-point lead, but it's 3rd and 6. A first down ends the game because the Jets are out of timeouts. If you run the ball, you eat up 40 seconds of the clock, but the Jets get the ball back with, about 1:20 or so left.
Plenty of time. Yeah, plenty of time.
Yeah, plenty of time, but no timeouts, and the Steelers have a good defense. If you pass for the first down and it's incomplete, now the Jets get the ball back with a full 2 minutes. So what do you call here if you're the Steelers? Let's find out.
Wide receivers looks like they're going to throw it. He's surprised. Yeah. And they are looking throw. Now, Roethlisberger in trouble. Throws it. What a catch. The catch to clinch it in all likelihood. Brown, who had the big one last week, the lone gainer to set up the winner, this time picks up the first down.
I totally forgot. I totally forgot about that game. But like that wasn't. If you have a veteran quarterback that can be careful with the football, that's not a bad play call, Tim. Because like there were 2 Jets closing in on him. Now Ben is ballsy enough to throw that. Like most quarterbacks probably just take a sack there, and you still burn, like you said, like 30, 40 seconds off the clock. So as long as that pass isn't incomplete, you're okay.
Yeah, I think,
or you fumble or throw an interception, but he found Brown. But that was his forte, like they said, like even Phil Simms said, once he gets out of the pocket, he likes that back. And that's what Ben made a Hall of Fame career on, was plays like that.
Yeah, I think Tomlin, one thing about Tomlin in his career, he will usually gamble in those situations. And I think he's smart doing it because honestly, like giving the ball back to the other team, it's just so gut wrenching because by that point your defense is a little gassed.
Well, I think too, like with the way the rules are, you're just leaving it up to whatever whim the NFL feels like. Because it's going to come down to a Hail Mary or a weird play on 4th down. And the NFL will be like, oh, well, you see, we changed the rules and it's blah, blah. It's like, just win it at the 2-minute warning. And if you don't, then you have to play it out. But as long as Ben just doesn't throw an incompletion or an interception or fumble, you're fine.
Right.
You just take the sack. Let's say Brown just fall down and take a sack, and like you said, you've accomplished the same thing as running the ball. Like losing those 5 or 10 yards really isn't that big of a deal. They were in a part of the field; it really didn't matter.
That's right. So you have to have a lot of trust in your quarterback too. But there were other times the playoff game against Kansas City 6 or 7 years later ended the same way, where they had the same situation and they gambled and went for a first down instead of giving Kansas City the ball back, and they won that game too. So I even if it fails, I think it's the right call.
Because the rules, it's because the way the rules are, they favor the offense. They want that ending. They want that TV ending with, here's the guy kicking a field goal or throwing a touchdown, and Patrick Mahomes now can do more State Farm commercials.
And at that point in the game, the offense is going to have more energy than the defense. And if you get into a rhythm.
Yeah, and the offense knows where it's going and the defense doesn't,
So that game, if the Steelers just do a safe running play there, that game is a gut-wrenching, last-minute drive by the Jets where I bet what happens is they get down, because Steelers are probably playing back. They would have got down to like the 20 and then would have had.
Well, they would have shots at the end zone, because it was 5 points.
Yeah. And so then you're like holding your breath for like however many plays they try to get into the end zone, and maybe the Steelers still hold them off, or maybe they don't. Like that's the hard thing. So anyway, didn't have to worry about it. Steelers ended up taking knees, go to the Super Bowl. Antonio Brown's the one that made that catch, and at the time he was a little known, like 4th string receiver. Because that was his rookie year. He wasn't really in the lineup that much, but that was kind of a harbinger of things to come, him making big plays like that. Rex Ryan slamming his headset down to the ground after that play is another memorable image.
Because they kind of had him like they didn't play bad defense on the play. Ben just made a play.
Yeah, they did. They played really good defense. It wasn't like they were like had everybody up the line expecting a run. They got good pressure on him. He had to scramble. They almost had him. They almost had that play, and so, yeah, poor Rex. I always thought he was actually a pretty good coach.
His players always played hard for him, and he was pretty good on defense. He just never had a really over the top quarterback. And I think it's unfair. Like Mark Sanchez wasn't as bad as people remember, or maybe he was. I don't know. I just thought he got that stupid butt fumble, and that's all anybody remembers.
Yeah, I mean, I think the problem for Sanchez and Rex Ryan, it's the same problem for Aaron Rodgers and everybody else. It's you played for the Jets. They're a garbage franchise who, like I said, adds nothing of value to the National Football League. So that's where we'll end things. Thanks everybody so much for listening. You can catch us on Facebook. We have a nice little community there where we do a lot of reminiscing, not just about these episodes, but about a lot of other Pittsburgh sports memories. So join us there. Please subscribe on whatever podcast service you listen on. That way you won't miss an episode. And please tell others about this show. That's our best way to get new listeners, is word of mouth. Thank you, and we will catch you next time.